Okay, I'm Karen Sullivan. I am the communications director for the high school, and thank you all so much for coming out tonight. We're going to be sharing the first project to come out of the Imagine O'Hara long-term facilities planning process that we ran. That's going on a couple of years ago now. We've spent 3 years and done a ton of homework getting to this point, and we are just really excited that we are mere weeks away from groundbreaking. So here's an overview of our agenda for the evening. I'm going to give you some quick background, and then I'm going to throw it to our architects to walk you through some of the design elements. But before I do that, I'm going to take a brief step back in time to 1968. So in 1968, these were some of the things that were going on. We had not yet landed on the moon. We just had our first manned space orbit around the moon. The minimum wage was $1.60. Star Trek aired the first interracial kiss on American TV. Martin Luther King, of course, was assassinated in April. And Hey Jude was the #1 song in the United States. And it was the last time we did a major renovation project on the high school. This is a picture from the 1968-69 yearbook of the Student Center, which you walk through on your way into here. This is what we now refer to as the new building. The little theater, the auditorium, and then the Student Center, which used to be Ontario Street, was all built in 1968. I was 3 years old in 1968. I am not feeling so new, but we still call that the new building. Most of the building was built in the early 1900s. So you can imagine teaching and learning have changed a lot since then. So now we are taking our building into the 2020s. And just a brief recap of the Imagine O'Hara process. How many of you participated in a community engagement session for that? Oh, good, great. Yeah, that was our process. Imagine O'Hara work group was 40 members on the committee. About 2/3 of them were community members, and about 1/3 were high school faculty and staff. And you can see these are all the data points that they collected that went into the research and then the planning phase to come up with the plans that we arrived at today. As you can see, I'm not going to go into all the detail here, you can read it, but we really left no stone unturned in assessing the needs of the facilities, of teaching and learning in the 2020s. And one surprising thing that we found out in all this research is something we're going to be addressing in the first project, which you'll hear a lot more about soon. One surprising tidbit was that our students want to spend more time at school, which we were kind of surprised by, but they really want, in all the research that I showed you a couple slides ago, one thing that we heard over and over again is that they wanted more spaces where they can study quietly, where they can collaborate on projects, where they can hang out between activities. Right now, those spaces really, in such a huge building, they're very scattered throughout the building, and security is definitely an issue. We haven't had a really centralized location for our student resources and places for students to do all those things. So that's a big part of what we're addressing here in this first project. So we want this evening to be an opportunity for you to learn about the design of the new facilities that we're creating, and to be here as excited as we are about the project to come. So I'm going to turn this over to Mike. And Mike is going to take us through some of the designs.
Thank you, Karen. My name is Mike Denz with FGM Architects. And,
Louder.
Sorry about that. My name is Mike Denz. Everybody hear me? There we go. Okay. With that, I'm Mike with FGM Architects, design principal here for the South Cafeteria, the Student Resource Center project. And we have a series of some still images and also some videos to walk everybody through for the new designs. And we're going to start with the main entrance and the student commons right out here, which you probably walk through on the way to the South Caf. So there you can see an existing photo of what the main entry vestibule looks like to the school. And one of the common terms we've heard this space being called, rather than the welcome center, is the unwelcome center, right? It's a very, it's dark, it doesn't have a very inviting presence along Schoolville. And as part of this renovation, we're looking to improve that. There you can see the opposite side. There's a stair that actually exits into what is the secure vestibule, which is actually really as part of good, secure planning for schools. It's actually a security breach to have an egress stair exiting into your secure vestibule. Here you can see that the student commons. You'll see in the design where we're actually going to extend portions of a part of that balcony to create more student collaboration space. And then here you can see, I believe this is the video that starts to walk you in towards the front door. And another good design principle when you're designing a main entry for a school is you want to keep landscaping down low. You want to keep sight lines clear. And one of the observations about the current entry is there's some tall hedge lines along that main entry. It's not well lit, and we're looking to improve that as part of enhancing the main entry here, along with introducing some signage, right, and giving it a little bit of a fresher look. This entry really kind of competes with the athletics entry here down at the other end, and we really want to find a good solution to really identify that front door. Here you can see.
We were going to show the video. There we go. There's no sound to this, so don't worry.
Here we're actually adding on area to that welcome center. We're actually building a new vestibule out in front of the current welcome center there to give a little bit more space on the interior. You can see there opportunity for a video wall to display announcements. And as you walk into the student commons, we're looking at expanding out there's some steps along the auditorium. We're looking to create more of a platform down low and then off of the balcony on the second floor as well, again, to create more student collaboration space. And the piece you're seeing there is actually what's referred to as the Book of Learning, which was on one of the original buildings of the school, which actually, when Ontario used to divide the site, it used to mark the main entry. And it turns out that some of those pieces are in the basement, the lower level, and we're looking to bring those back and incorporate them into the new lobby. Second floor, there you can see that extended balcony area. Could have some glass walls there, which are also great dry erase surfaces for student collaboration. And you'll see these images are they might be a little kind of a grayscale, a lot of gray tones. Currently, we're working with the district to really start to look at materials and finishes and colors and really bring in that school identity, right? The orange and blue. So here we can see a photo of the space we're in now, the South Cafeteria, which will be demolished, and a new South Cafeteria with a 2-story addition for the Student Resource Center will be above us right here. You can see an exterior view from the mall. And you can see how crowded things are at lunch and students needing more different types of spaces, right, to have their lunch. And then here's a rendering of the proposed design from the mall. Now, we really wanted to take an approach with design to fit into the existing building, and we've done that through the use of materials. You can see the addition, there's like a gray buff colored brick that creates these two vertical elements. One of those, this one here, is actually an egress stair for the new addition, which is required by code. And then the opposite side is a series of smaller group collaboration rooms that serve the student resource center.
We can't. Why don't you hold the mic? Why don't you plug the pointer so we can see it?
Sorry about that. There we go. So what you're also seeing here, there's a lot of exciting things going on in the new SRC, right? On that second floor is the Makerspace and the Tutoring Center. And the third floor, we have the library. And on that third floor, looking out to the west over the play fields, would be the reading room, which you'll see here in a minute on the interior. And on the second floor would be that Makerspace, looking out over to the west into the play fields. And it was really important to capture as much daylight as we can with this design and introduce floor-to-ceiling glass in these areas to really harvest some of that natural light, but also provide some pretty nice views out as well. Here you can see more of an elevation view. What you're seeing out in front there are some steps, and it's really creating an outdoor terrace, an extension of the south cap as you move out towards the mall. Because there's actually a grade change here. The level of this floor is about 2 feet higher than the mall level outside.
What does that mean? Are we going down or?
No, you're going to be at the same level. This floor is at the same level. It's just this raised area is this floor slab level is going to extend outside to the mall, and then there's going to be an accessible ramp and then steps as well. So this here is really capturing those two really exciting spaces, right, on the second floor. You have that Makerspace and you have that reading room. So here's an interior view of that south cafeteria as you walk in the doors. One of the design goals here is to really get away from what you see out here are these high density tables, right? And create a variety of seating for students. Students that want to sit in large groups, small groups, sit individually, all giving them all different choices. You can see the servery there beyond, which would be part of a renovation for this project. And then you're seeing a raised area, which is in the center of the space. Again, it gives students another choice for seating, but also provide you some views looking out over the south caf.
Does it create any walk space?
No, it's the same footprint as what it is today. Basically, yeah. Here we have some interior views of the library interior. And now we're entering into what is the second floor of the Student Resource Center, directly above us, which is the Makerspace and Tutoring Center. So this is one special feature for the space that really connects the second floor with the third floor library. And this is a learning stair, which you could comfortably fit two classes. You could really pack them in and fit 3. And the big idea here is it could be used for formal presentations and student speeches, but it could also be used as a casual space to hang out for students, right? And it really connects that second floor, the Makerspace and Tutoring Center, with that third floor library level.
What's a makerspace? What goes into it and who's using it?
Makerspace, they're spaces for really project-based learning where students are hands-on. They might be building a piece of circuitry, right? Or they might be experimenting with 3D printers or laser cutters. It's really hands-on things that they're doing in there.
Is it classroom?
It's not an enclosed classroom. It's more of a,
under the tutelage of a teacher, or is this just useful space for a kid who wants to learn?
no, it would be supported by a teacher and other resource staff within the library and then the second floor of the Student Resource Center. So here you're seeing that makerspace, right? That's looking out over to the west. And in that space, there's a couple teaching walls and then smaller group collaboration rooms on either side, right? So when students are working on team projects, they can have some a dedicated place to meet and work on those things. Now we're walking around to the tutoring center side of the second floor, which has a couple smaller sized classrooms for those programs. And now we're walking back towards the learning stair, which will be here up to your right. What we just walked by on the right is a classroom that could be reserved by teachers throughout the school year to bring in some students, get them out of the classroom setting, get them into the makerspace in the library for different activities. And what you're also seeing is because of the position of the south caf with, you have a gymnasium that's 2 stories on the south side here, it's a little bit more of a challenge to bring in some natural daylight deeper into that floor plan. And what we're doing over the learning stair are some smaller skylights to help bring in some of that natural light deeper into the space. Here you can see the circulation desk for the library on the left with their various support spaces behind. Again, you're seeing more small group rooms there to the left, another shared classroom to the right there. And now we're approaching the reading room, overlooking the play fields and the neighborhood beyond. And again, this is very similar to the floor below where there's small group collaboration rooms on either side there as well. Another classroom there in that corner that can be shared. And then really looking at ways to bring in other little seating areas throughout this library space as well. Oh yeah. There's also, all 3 of these levels will be connected with an elevator, which will be essentially in that corner right over there, providing full accessibility to all levels.
So is the room behind you, is that part of the renovation as well?
The room behind,
Yeah, so
no, the space won't be part of that project. The one West Gym,
will be split off. Is that right?
correct, yeah. Turn it over to Josh.
Good evening, Josh Cerniak, FGM Architects, principal in charge for the project. And while Mike, while Mike had the pleasure of relaying the design to you, I have the distinct pleasure to talk to you about the schedule. So what you saw was design in progress for the main entrance, commons, South Cafeteria, SRC. Really, there's more going on with this project than just those components, so that's what we're going to talk about now. The South Cafeteria and Student Resource Center construction is going to begin on that portion of Project 1 this June, and that runs through December of 2021. So that's a non-stop construction duration spanning that time, and during that, other work will occur. Additionally, the 2020 summer work, similar to summer work that the district undertakes every summer, that will be going on from June until August. And then there's some other components that are displaced by the demolition of the South Cafeteria and the classrooms that are over on this east end of the South Cafeteria on floors 2 and 3. those go away. Some of those classrooms have to be relocated this coming summer so that when students return in the fall, things like driver's ed, they'll land in their new home. And so that's some of the other work that will begin in earnest this June. And then next summer, or summer of 2021, in addition to work continuing on the South Cafeteria and SRC, the first phase of the special education renovation will begin. That's the area immediately to the north of the existing main entrance on Scoville. The main entrance and student commons work will occur in the summer of 2021 as well. First phase of classroom renovations, health life safety work, and the all-gender toilet rooms. And then summer of 2022, the second phase of special education work will occur. The remainder of the classroom renovations that were identified as part of Project 1, health life safety work, and then the district will again re-engage on the capital improvement side. So there will be that little bit of break, if you will, on capital improvements in the summer of 2021. And then the final summer will round out this long-range facilities work, which will be the remainder of the health and safety violations corrected and the capital improvements. So, during this time, there are going to be impacts, and what we're doing here with this particular information is conveying what those impacts are going to be on the site and to the school building itself. Beginning this summer, based on the amount of construction that's happening right here and directly to the west in the mall will be closed to pedestrians. Now, when we say that, that does not mean that the mall is going to be entirely closed for school operations. Students and faculty and coaches will still have access out of the south hallway, and they will traverse the south end of the mall to make their way to the athletic fields. And students will still have access to the north end of the mall if they are to use the bike racks at the north end. But construction traffic will be it will be allowed into the site only at certain times, and those construction vehicles will be monitored so that there is, safety obviously is paramount during construction. But this area immediately to the west of the South Cafeteria will be fenced off. So you will not be able to, students, faculty, anyone in the neighborhood will not be able to get into what is an active construction site. So some other impacts that we've identified is the annual library book sale will have to be held off-site. You're probably seeing on here that the tennis courts will be closed, and that is in fact the case. Only a portion of the tennis courts, Josh Warner, correct me if I'm wrong, but a total of 4 are being taken over for construction activities. The other 4 will actually remain in use by the school. And so, again, the closure of the mall will continue all the way until the Student Resource Center and New South Cafeteria are constructed. But moving into summer of 2021, probably the most significant impact to OPRF to accomplish all of this work over the next 3-4 years is that summer school will be held off-site, summer of 21 and summer of 22. There's still, the district administration is still working out as to whether or not the summer musical, if it's held off-site, where it will be held off-site. And then really that's I would say that's the most significant impacts that the district is going to be facing, the community is going to be facing during the course of this construction.
You have about 2 things. First, with that demolition, where's the debris going to go?
So Sure. So the first question was, during demolition, where is the debris going to go? The debris will be hauled off by the demolition contractor, really as they need to haul it off the site. So, I mean, I would have to imagine sometimes that depending on the speed at which they work, that could be a daily haul off of those materials.
So the intention is you're not going to store any debris here.
They're really, with a limited room that there is to work, there might be, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but they might use a little bit of lay down
Yeah,
area
it comes
here.
down.
Yeah.
As it comes down, we would be storing it here on the site.
Okay.
But definitely not in the streets. I mean, there might be some area around in the mall as well.
Great. And then the second question, I'm sure you probably thought about this, because parking around here is pretty difficult. It's very difficult as it is. With construction vehicles, obviously it's going to be a lot harder. So is there going to be limited parking for construction vehicles, or they'll park in the mall?
So we have the mall. We have
Question, please.
So the question was that parking is already a challenge on and around the site. So how is that going to be handled during the duration of construction?
I'm Josh Warner with Pepper Construction. So the parking, like I said, we'll have half of the tennis courts that we'll use. We'll also use the areas of the mall. And then during the summer months, we'll also have the top level of the parking garage. Kind of outside of that, as activity gets heavier, there's also two parking lots where they're paid lots that contractors will use as well. So.
Can everybody hear me?
No.
No? I'm a loud boy.
Yes, but we don't have great ears anymore.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We're going to now open up for a full array of questions. So joining Josh and Mike and the other Josh will be Karen Sullivan, Greg Bruce, and Jeff Bergman. And they're going to come up front and answer any questions that you may have. Are these on? Yeah, we have a mic up front. You're welcome to come up and ask your questions.
Hi, good evening. Can you talk about the energy efficiency and sustainability measures you put into every stage of construction?
Sure, I'll start, and Mike, if you wanna jump in. So first, did everyone hear the question? What's that?
Say it again.
Sure. So the question was, what has been done as far as sustainability measures incorporated into the design and construction phases of the project? So for the portion of the overall project that we've designed so far, the state of Illinois actually has a pretty stringent energy conservation code that the project will be designed to. So at a baseline, all of the minimum requirements of the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code will be met. And in some instances where the district can afford to go beyond the minimum requirements based on the budget, those things, and really a lot of it has to do with the mechanical equipment that is utilized in the new portion of the building. Those things will be brought forward by the mechanical engineer and for the district to make a decision on how best to move forward. But I want you to know it's imperative that this building addition and any of the new spaces that we have to build out in the building, for example, when the existing Makerspace Tutoring Center and library are vacated at the northwest corner of the building, classrooms are going into that area. And so currently the mechanical systems were not designed for classrooms. So that will receive all the mechanical systems in that portion of the building. So again, that mechanical equipment and the lighting will meet at a minimum, the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code. In addition to that, moving back here to the South CAF and the SRC, the building envelope will meet or exceed the envelope requirements in the Energy Conservation Code. So I don't know if that,
And that we have already converted to green energy for electrical purposes.
well, I think you're talking about the district's purchasing of energy, that you've offset, that there's been a carbon offset,
Right.
so that the district, I don't know that we have anyone at this table who can speak to that in more detail, but that was something that was taken to the Board of Education last year
Right.
by one of the consultants retained to do the energy purchasing for the district.
But right now, there's no plan to put solar on any part of the roof.
Great question. So the question was, is there any plan to put solar onto the new roof? So the district has entertained the idea of leasing out the flat roof on the building, potentially even beyond the new flat roof above the SRC, the Student Resource Center. But on the new roof for the Student Resource Center, we will design in a structure to attach solar panels to. All far too often, to our chagrin, many building owners and facility operators are being wooed by these companies who really are wolves in sheep's clothing, and they are putting these solar panels onto roofs and laying them down with what a layperson would refer to as a cinder block. That is a terrible idea, not the least of which it can ruin your roof. But in a high wind event, guess where those solar panels are going to end up? On your neighbor's property, and likely doing damage, if not hurting or killing someone. So the fact that this has actually gone unchecked in Illinois and other states is a big problem. We don't want the same thing to happen here. So that's why we're looking at designing in a system onto the roof where the solar panels would actually physically attach to and be held far enough off the roof to not affect drainage and also allow for proper maintenance of the roof. So, something to keep in mind. Yes.
Speaking of solar, with all that great western exposure, are there shades that have been put into the design?
Yeah, so the question was, speaking of solar, given the design that we showed, were there shades being planned for the west facade of the South Cafeteria and Student Resource Center? Yes, but even more importantly, the type of insulated glass units that we would specify for that type of exposure are going to be provided. So the visual light transmittance is cut down, the amount of solar heat gain is cut down, and that's done really just within the insulated glass unit that we're specifying and the coatings that are put onto the glass. So that's really your first line of defense. That actually helps significantly more from an energy perspective. The shades are actually done more for our eyes and to cut down glare in spaces. But we would use roller shades instead of blinds. And the great thing about roller shades is these fabrics are pretty unbelievable in that they cut down a significant amount of the light transmittance into the space. But when you're in the space and they're down, you can still see through them and out to the outdoors. Whereas with a traditional blind, when you close it, you're not seeing outside. So.
There have been reports that hospital rooms at Project One are running 4 or 5 million over the 32.6 million. So what does Project One currently consist of? How many classrooms?
Well, it's the Project One still consists of until the Board of Education says otherwise, Project One still consists of the 64 existing classrooms.
It was 72.
No, plus 12 infill. So it's 64 existing classrooms to be renovated plus the 12 infill on the northwest corner of the building where the library, Makerspace, Tutoring Center is being vacated.
So nothing has been cut at this point?
Nothing has been cut at this point. Yes.
In terms of security, do you have two primary entrances now? You've got the Scoville Avenue traditional entrance, and you've created this large entry off of the East Avenue. Do you have two entrances now, or how are you going to deal with it?
Sure, it's a great question. The question was, it appears as though there's two entrances that have been created to the school, one on Scoville, and then this one here on the west side of the new South Cafeteria. So at this present time, the district has not made a decision on whether or not the new doors that would provide access from the inside to the mall if they would actually serve as an entrance for students. So, and that's done through access control, an access control system the building has as to whether or not they wanted to ultimately have that function that way day one. Keep in mind that the main entrance on Scoville at arrival, student arrival in the morning, is not currently the only door that students come in. There's actually a number of locations, and they're strategically placed around the building to accommodate where students are coming from the neighborhoods. So I don't know if that adequately answered your question. Is essentially the district has not yet decided if the doors serving the South Caf will actually serve as another entrance into the building.
I just want to make the point, the student entrances, we have, I think it's 4 entrances that the students come in. Those are staffed by security personnel and administrators when the students are coming at the beginning of the day, and then those doors are locked throughout the day. So they're not just free-flowing entrances and exits throughout the day.
And I don't know if I heard the gentleman wrong. Can you use the microphone, please? I just said one clarification. I don't know if I heard the gentleman wrong. I thought he said we were adding 2 new entrances, one on Scoville and one out here. And all they're doing is extending the entrance on Scoville. So there's no new entrance being put there. And then out here, where it's kind of like where you see these doors now, we've not had that discussion, but we have said to the board that as we expand space, we will have to take into consideration security measures.
Hi, I'm Isabel Flores. I'm president of Environmental Code.
Can you use the microphone, please?
Yeah.
So sit down.
Okay. Hi, I'm Isabella Flores. I'm president of Environmental Club, and we heard that the renovations were going to cut down the garden. Is that true?
During construction, so your garden is on the mall, so during construction, we're not going to be able to use the garden on the mall there. We haven't figured out where we're going to relocate the garden. Yeah, that's a discussion that we haven't had, but we know that we're not going to be able to use the garden during construction when
So
it's on the mall.
Will the garden be used as a disposal of what's being taken down?
That's a question, Kevin. No, we're not going to put debris in there, I would assume, right? Okay. It's just not going to be accessible because this area is going to be closed off.
No, but does that mean that we should start taking it apart so that we can relocate it?
Ah, okay. I think that this is an offline discussion with Mr. Pruis and Mr. Bergman, and we can figure that out. I think that that's sort of a detailed discussion, but you make a really good point. We'll need to take care of that.
I can't tell you that that garden is going to be within the construction fenced in area, so you won't be able to access it.
Is there any chance of us changing the plans for the tennis courts so that they will be accessible for the next 2 years?
The question was, is there any chance of changing the plans over the next 2 years so that the tennis courts, all of the tennis courts could remain in use? Someone earlier asked about the difficulties of the current site and around the high school with that parking is already a challenge. The 4 tennis courts that are being taken over, the majority of its use is for contractor parking, which actually will help alleviate the parking along the streets that ring around the school district itself, the school itself, I should say. So, is it possible it would take another solution to come forward on where to not only house that contractor parking, but also the trailer that the construction manager needs on site. And
Can I interject that?
Yeah.
So for the tennis team, we're working with the park district. We're gonna have courts that they are gonna share with us so that our tennis team can still practice. We'll have to cut back on the tennis that we offer in our PE classes, but the tennis teams will still have places to practice.
And I just feel that since there's fields here that these teams will still get to use, it's unfair to the tennis team that we should have to move somewhere else when Fenwick and Trinity are already using the other courts around the area for their teams since they don't have courts on site.
I'm not gonna lie, it stinks for you guys. It does, but you know, I mean, like, we're landlocked and there's only so much that we can do. The tennis courts are gonna be fully replaced at the end of the project. I don't have to tell you, if you play tennis, they desperately need to be replaced. So once we're done with this portion of the construction, we're gonna have new tennis courts. But I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. We had to make a choice, and that was the most logical place to put it.
In support of that comment, shouldn't, if it's one sport being affected for 2 or 3 years, why not share the inconvenience amongst other sports? It's not good for anybody, but why does the tennis program get hurt for 3 years or 2.5 years? If there's a spot for the trailer or a spot for the parking. Again, we don't want to inconvenience any program, but to do it for one program for 2.5 years doesn't seem pretty equitable, I guess.
so the question was, why not pass or share the burden of being affected by the construction activities and duration to the other sports that OPRF runs, the other sports programs. And I guess what I would say is that the likely, so the existing tennis courts are not in the best of shape. They also don't meet current IHSA and National Sport Federation requirements. So it actually limits the events that OPRF can hold for its tennis program. So those two things made it seem like an obvious choice to displace half of the courts because the district was looking ultimately to replace those courts. If we landed folks on the tennis courts for 6 months or a year and then transitioned the impact to another area, if damage was sustained on one of the other athletic fields, all it does is then increase the cost to repair or replace those other areas.
Why not do it at the end? Why not share it with another team for the middle program at the beginning, and then do it with tennis afterwards, so that they have to do their day? You're doing damage, but they still cost. Back to the equity question. We're talking about girls and boys 2 years, potentially not having home matches.
Spring and fall.
Yeah. And summer.
Just something to think about. Again, if you're looking at options, obviously there's logistics and costs, we get that. But
Sure.
for one program to bear the burden for 2.5 years, you got a bunch of space in different programs, and maybe only a spring sport. You're talking spring, fall, summer, 2 years, boys and girls.
I would take that back. I know that the athletic director, John Stelter, has had ongoing conversations. I know. I was saying that I know that John Stelter, the athletic director, has had ongoing conversations with Dan Arnold of the Park District. So I will make sure that that is one of the conversations. I know they talked about outside practice places, and I heard your comments about Fenwick and Trinity, so I will share that. But I know they've had some ongoing conversations because we know that during the day, we have to reduce the number of kids in tennis classes, but they would be able to use the court for that. But I will take back your concern about us being able to host competition, right?
Yeah.
for right now, do we know, will we be able to host any invitationals, sectionals, anything like that, any matches for the next 2 years?
I don't think the architects know that, that's why I'm gonna follow up with Mr. Phil. And if you would give us your name, so we'll make sure the tenant appropriate.
Yeah, my name is Paul Harding. My wife and I. Is this better?
Yes.
My name is Paul Harding. My wife and I have lived in Oak Park River Forest for over 40 years. Our kids are graduates of Oak.
Can't hear you.
It's a
You gotta
great.
hold it really close.
It's gone on.
Well,
Hold it. You have to like,
You have to direct
right
it.
up to your mouth.
There you go.
Is this better?
no.
Closer.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay.
And project.
Okay, great. My name is Paul Harding. My wife and I have lived in Oak Park and River Forest for the last 45 years. Our kids are graduates of OPRF. It's a great school. They got a great education. There's this tradition of academic excellence. Oak Park has a tradition of architectural excellence in the work of Frank Lloyd Wright and the other fine architects that have done wonderful buildings here. In my opinion, as an architect, it's the design, it's just the space of it, it's like really inappropriate. I mean, it's just a mediocre building, it's bombastic, and it's not done well. I encourage the board and the community to ask the architects, please do something better to reflect the academic excellence and the architectural excellence of our community. This is really important. These buildings get done once every 50 years, so why shouldn't this be done really well? Thank you.
I didn't know whether I'd say anything because I thought the sort of the horses out of the barn on the architectural thing, but I absolutely agree with that comment. My father and his sister went through this school. I and my sister went through this school. And our 2 sons went through this school. And I continued to support, and then I was on the Board of Education for 7 years. So everything that I can do to support this school, I will do. And as has been mentioned, one of the ways in which you perpetuate the manifestations of the historical excellence of this school is by maintaining the architectural integrity of the original building. And I have seen this done. I went from here to Harvard College, and Harvard has recently redone all of its houses, which are Georgian, but they kept the outside absolutely exactly as it was, and they basically gutted the inside and kept the architectural integrity on the outside. Now, I don't expect that to happen here, but as was mentioned, that new western entrance is not OPRF. And there was some mention of things that have been found in the basement. And yes, that's great, bring them out. It takes more than that. If you those people who are now working on this probably were not aware of the original Ontario Street entrance and what that represented architecturally. I know that that doesn't give the light and all of that sort of things that we need today, but I think there can be a better recognition of the historical architectural integrity of the original building. What was your name, sir? Dave Hanson, HNSO.
Hi, Oak Park resident, only 5 years, 1 kid here, 1 kid will be coming here. It's fine. We don't have a huge endowment, we don't have a lot of money, so use the money any way you want, give us more light, just make it very practical and very useful within our budget for the students. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Let me ask, what budget are we currently on? We're at 50 million for this first couple of years or something?
So the total for the Imagine OPRF piece of it, which is what you saw, is 32.6 million, and that's the budget that we're managing to. The health, life, safety, and the maintenance work.
Health and safety is 5.1 million.
The health, life, safety items are 5.1 million.
And,
The
self-
maintenance
is 4 million.
is 4 million. Every year, per year, yeah. And that's in line with what our usual summer.
And let me ask you, are we taking that out of the capital reserve or is that some other source?
That's being taken out of fund balance.
Good.
Just the Imagine part.
Hi, this is sound effect. Doesn't sound like it's working well.
We'll
but-
repeat your
Okay,
question.
so this is probably best for you and Dr. Pruitt Adams, but with access limited on the mall, I don't know if the entrance to the stadium on the mall is still gonna be accessible.
It will be.
It will be, okay. So then that answers the rest of my question about access for graduation and the likelihood of moving it because of it.
So we'll have access.
Okay. Thanks.
I'm just curious how that seemed to have lost the theme of the health or the equity issue and the American We themes that were prevalent, and I was wondering if you could connect the two in the project phasing, because I thought there was an integration of thoughts about addressing some of the equity issues with the design piece in the project. And I haven't heard anything about that in terms of description of this project.
So the
Question.
Student Resource
Question.
Center.
Repeat the question. Okay, there.
Can you hear me?
Well, what was his question?
Oh, the question was, can we speak to equity? The impression was that equity was a piece of the design consideration, and could we speak to how that's a part of Project One? Absolutely. So the Student Resource Center grew out of a lot of student feedback that we got, and that it really broke out along racial lines for us, that a lot of our students of color don't necessarily feel welcome in their school, that there aren't the gathering places for them to be. If you're here at 3 o'clock, the student activity center there is full of kids, and they kind of get swept out at the end of the day because we don't have spaces for kids to be between activities. If they have a practice that starts at 5, our library's not staffed after school. So that is a big part of the equity piece for us, is creating this gathering space and a sense of belonging in spaces where all of our kids can be after school. And throughout the day, of course, too. But especially after school hours. And that's something that we're also going to be looking at, is now that we'll have a centralized space where we can centralize security for the space, and we have the tutoring center and the library, we'll be looking at staffing those so that maybe we can keep those open longer than we're able to now, to give places for students to study and collaborate and to just be teenagers, frankly. Dr. Pruitt-Adams, you look like you wanted to say something.
What about the classroom design elements of the new classroom space with a common space for academic? How is that?
Part of the classroom space, while Karen talks about the racial aspect of it, there's also the accessibility aspect. And so our current structure does not appropriately house or have entryway for our students who are in wheelchairs and so forth. So that's another consideration as it relates to equity. With regards to classroom and academic space, the lighting, the HVAC, the spacing will allow more access. The tutoring center, and we'll go back to that too, which is academic, as well as the testing center. A lot of our students have said to us that when they leave here, they don't always have access to where to do research, they don't have access to the internet. Having those spaces centrally located gives them the opportunity to stay after school and have those things done. Right now, you have to go to different aspects of the building to do that, and we felt putting it all in a central location would address that. But our classroom spaces in terms of lighting, square footage, and accessibility and ventilation will help all of our students, not just our Black and brown students. Does that help? And that came from our students. And if you've ever, as she said, been here at the end of the day, those few chairs when you first come in, there are students there wanting to be in school. They have said to us, I want to be here. And we kind of usher them out. There's another reason for broadening the gallery level upstairs as well, so that they have more space to be social and to get work done.
Well, if you all think of other questions after you leave, and I'm sure you will, there are some flyers on the table on the way out. We have a special email address, construction@OPRFHS, where you can submit questions. We'll have an FAQ on the website, and there are several of us who are monitoring that email so that we can get back to you and answer your questions. And I know that if any of you are neighbors, that's especially important for neighbors. If there's an issue going on that you want to get in touch with us right away, that's the way to do that. So thank you all so much for coming. It's great to see you out on a night like this, and we hope you're as excited as we are about